I want to just give some ideas on health and stuff. First of all, just a little bit of principle here. Verse, this is 3 John 1 and 2. It says, "The elder under the beloved Gaius, whom I love in the truth, beloved, I wish above all things that thou mayest prosper and be in health, even as thy soul prospereth. For I rejoice greatly when the brethren came and testified of the truth that was in thee, even as thou walkest in the truth." All right, let's pray. Father, thank you for the Word of God. Thank you for the chance to study this, Lord. It's a problem. It's chronic. It's a lot of heartache and suffering. It's probably needless, Lord. And I pray you'd help us. And I pray that you would guide us as we study your Word. I pray that we would have your thoughts. We would have wisdom in the Scriptures. And I pray we'd have wisdom to be good stewards of our temple that you've given to us, your temple, that is the one we live in. And help us, Lord, to understand these concepts and understand your truth and to think like you think. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. So this is John writing to Gaius, and he says here, you know what? I'm so glad you're so spiritual, but he says, I want your body I want you to prosper in your body to be in good health, like your soul is. Now he says in verse 4, I have no greater joy than to see my children walk in truth. The spiritual is certainly with the physical. Otherwise, we'd have no martyrs. And I don't want to disproportionate the priorities here and things like that. But we'll talk more about that. That's not where I want to go this week as much. But I want to go back to 1 Timothy chapter 4. So you see there that health does matter. He wants the health to be good. Probably a person, we don't know the whole story, but probably they're sick there. They're saying, I wish your body would be as good as your soul. And so someone who struggles with health. Timothy, of course, here in the scripture, he struggled with his health. He had stomach problems at the minimal. And it talks about that. And 1 Timothy in chapter 4 and verse 8 says, "For bodily exercise profiteth little, but godliness is profitable unto all things, having the promise of the life to them that now is, and of them which is to come." So, bodily exercise profits little, but godliness profits us in all things. So, it's saying exercising, even if it gets your body healthy, your body is just your body. And look, the guy can be a great bodybuilder and have a terrible marriage, be severely depressed, all those things. He can build up his body and have, cancer inside of him, not know about it. I mean, bodily exercise doesn't profit that much. But godliness makes it so your family is right, so your health is right, so your spirituality is right, and so your relationships are right, and your eternity is right, your relationship with God is right, and you're at peace in your soul, and you have joy. So godliness is far above physical health. If you had a choice to be physically healthy or spiritually healthy, you'd want to certainly be spiritually healthy. Because you know what? No matter how healthy you are, your body's going to deteriorate, and no matter what happens in 100 years, all that'll matter is not how much you can bench press or how fast a 40-yard dash you can do. But what matters is what you did for God and in eternity. And with that in mind, that's part of the thing. I have, for the kingdom of God, gladly and feel privileged to do it. I have deeply affected my health over the years, just doing things for God the way I've lived and the trips I've taken and where I've gone and burning the candle both ends, stuff like that. I know that. I chose that. I'm happy to have done it. And because the spiritual is more important than the physical to me, that does not mean anywhere near a neglect of what I can do for my health. Because your health affects a lot of things, including your emotions, including supplying for your family and all those things. And so it doesn't say bodily exercise doesn't profit. It just it profits a little, but godliness profits everything. And so I want to kind of get those concepts in mind and understand that. And so I'm going to do a decent amount of laying a principle this week, and then I'll give you just some signs and things that show you what's going on. This I find almost nobody knows. It's not all Bible, although we're getting the Bible. It is not unknown and hidden stuff, but there's some 2 + 2 + 2 here, and they're really obvious when you kind of put the Bible and you put science, and you put what's happening to people's bodies all together, and it makes a whole bunch of things make sense. And so I'm talking about today, Americans are starving. Americans are starving. You say, not the Americans I see. They don't look like they're starving. And but that is actually a true thing. And that's what I talk about is Americans are starving today. Health has massively changed. Bodies are breaking down much earlier. Older people do not have the health they used to have. Now, somebody say, oh, yes, they do. The life expectancy is way longer than it used to be. But the last 30 years is nothing like what it used to be. If you are my age and your grandparents, say, or if you're older than that and your parents were the Depression age, and there's a period of time where things started changing, and we'll show you that in a little while. But your grandparents worked in the garden until they died. A lot of them. And a lot of them worked, didn't retire because, and a lot of them were but you look at somebody nowadays, where my grandpa and grandma were working in the garden until they were very, very old, and my grandpa died in his mid-60s, but he was active and doing those things. So my grandma much longer, and they could bend down and do all that work. Nowadays, people in their 40s and 50s, their back's already shot. Okay, and so, but it's not because they necessarily, it could be because they have a bulging disc, it could be because of a herniated disc, it could be a bunch of other things. But you'll find out many times they have what's called degenerative disc disease. Okay, which means your discs are disappearing. Now, one of the things in different lessons we get into it, understand the word disease is really broad. Okay, what most people think when you say disease, they think of a virus in their body. Okay, degenerative disc disease is not a virus in your body. It means your discs are degenerating. That's all it means. Now, why is that happening? Why are people's backs, just for example, so much worse when people used to do a lot more physical labor and a lot of things like that? And of course, not every single person has this. Let me give you an article here. Okay, health is changing so massively. There's so many stories in this. I'll just read one today. Colon and rectal cancer surge among millennials and Gen X. I'm Gen X. Millennials are my kids. Okay, that's the generations. And so Gen X is 40s, basically, in the 40s, early 50s, late 30s. Gen X is 20s, millennials are even younger and in their 20s and late teens and early 30s. These cancers. Now, a few things here. This is USA Today. This is the end of January. No, this is the end of February. Sorry, this article. Again, everything I'm going to give you, I'm not going to give you conspiracy stuff, weird stuff that nobody else knows. This is pretty traditional stuff. Nothing here is from any spooky source that nobody else knows about. Okay, this is USA Today. Okay, so just a few things I'll read to you. But it appears that under this, they're talking about how the colon cancer and rectal cancer death has gone down. And older people, why? Because they're screening a lot more people and they're catching it early and they're treating, which is good. And that's helping people. But as they're doing massive search on this, what they're finding out is, it appears that under the surface, the underlying risk for colorectal cancer is rising, and is rising quickly among young adults. Now, I want to read you something in this article. Anything more than about a 1% a year is a big change. The writer of the study says. So you look at millions of people, and you're looking at whatever you're looking at. You're looking at colon cancer, you're looking at breast cancer, you're looking at diabetes. People, you have millions of people, and they all eat the same diet, they all live in the same country, and so the numbers don't change a whole bunch. They might gradually go up in different areas and stuff like that. But a 1% change makes scientists and medical people say, "Oh, I wonder what's happening there," because you have an entire society and something changed 1% medically. That's a big change. Okay, got that? 1% is a big change to make eyebrows raise. You get up to a 5 or 10% change in something, and something's really wrong. Something in society is changing massively, and they've got to really, really get serious and immediately look at it. The result of this study, a big study. And the result of this study, someone born in 1990 has double the risk of early colon cancer. Double the risk? has double the risk of colon cancer and quadruple the risk of early rectal cancer as someone born in 1950. You just hear that number? It didn't go up 10%. It didn't go up 20%. You have double for one kind of cancer and quadruple of someone who's born in 1950. See, and now there's a lot of things like that we could get and show you, and we'll probably show you a little more next week. But that's a humongous, something massive has changed, okay? And is it because we're all getting irradiated with, nuclear stuff? Is it chemtrails in the air getting us? What is it? But I just want you to understand the first thing is just understand that health has changed, okay? And health has changed, and that's just one article on one thing on two types of cancers, okay? I for a while I collected a lot of these things. I just watched the articles, and I've collected them for a while. But you can just, if you watch the mainstream news, every once in a while they'll come out and say and now they're getting better at treating stuff. Okay, so it might in the end say deaths are down or stable or whatever, but why are we having such an increase? Okay, and so. Yeah, you can. I don't know if I can answer all the time, but
did that article give some good cause?
No. That's the article. That article is just a study. That's all I do is study what the stats are, and not the solution. And so, here we are. We've gotten this situation. We've gotten all these health changes. We've got all these things. We are, I believe, the biggest problem. There's other things. There's several factors. I think there's more than one factor. Anytime you have change like that, you have a lot of factors. But the part of what I want to talk about and show you a little bit is one of the biggest factors I believe is people are starving to death. You say, how are people starving to death? They're fat in America. Well, the reason they're starving to death is a little bit different because let me explain this to you, okay? Let's say you decided today you're going to start eating, and all you're going to eat is you're going to eat for permanently. All you're going to eat is cotton candy and Snicker bars, okay? And that's all you're going to eat, okay? Now, you understand you would die eventually, right? You would die. You would technically starve to death, but it wouldn't be that you didn't have enough calories, okay? Just think of health for a sec. In your health, there's a bunch of things you need. You need salt, okay? You need calories. You need all these things. But the American diet has crazy amounts of those things. And so if you eat those certain things, you would be getting enough of certain things that you need. And you would retain your weight for a while until organs started failing, okay? But you would eventually, because you don't have enough nutrients, things would start to fail. Body parts start to fail. So you could say, well, so you eat ice cream 3 meals a day, 7 days a week, and you would say you'd eventually die. Why? Because though you're getting a lot of calories, you're getting a lot of fat maybe, you're not feeding your body. You're not getting a whole bunch of necessary things. That make sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay. So you could starve to death, right? Eating just ice cream. Okay? You don't, and you start out, you don't get enough protein, you don't get enough vitamin C, you don't get enough iron. There's a bunch of things you don't get, your body has to have. But we get a whole bunch of things that somebody in Haiti doesn't get. Okay? They can't get enough calories. Okay? We don't have that problem. Okay? I probably ate 45,000 calories this week. And so, but you understand, but there's a whole bunch of things you need. And if you don't get those, what happens is there's certain things for your brain. Okay? Your brain doesn't get fed. Your memory starts getting worse, and you start not thinking clearly. You don't get enough vitamin B12. You don't get the stuff that's in fish oil and the omegas and things like that. You'll find your brain starts to not think as clearly. Why? It's starving. Okay? One of the reasons we overeat, by the way, is because our body never says, I got enough of everything. If you understand that for a sec, the food you're eating is not giving you what you really need. So at the end of your meal, you've eaten lots and you're saying, I want to eat more. Because your body's saying, I didn't get what I needed. Does that make sense? And so we are actually starving And a lot of the breakdown in the bodies because people are actually starving because their food they're eating is not giving them what they need. Now, let me give you a Bible lesson here on this. And you say, what does the Bible talk about? Vitamins. Let's go to Genesis 2. Genesis 2. I want to lay this I'm going to spend a decent amount of time laying this principle today, and then next week I'll just show you in some areas here. Genesis chapter 2. So most of the time, the medical field, Charlie's question is good because the medical field does two things. And I am not against modern medicine. Okay? I am not at all. The medical field is very good at studying massive numbers of things and seeing when there's a problem. And they're very good at treating that problem. But in between there is a step of why is this happening? And they're awful at that. Okay? They do not say, now some people say because all of it is about money and okay. I don't think that's all. I think that's a factor. But I think there's a lot of good people in the medical field who want to fix things. But most doctors know very little about nutrition. But they're fantastic if you break your leg. And if you have your blood sugar spikes and you have go into diabetic coma, you have a heart attack, the medical, they're fantastic. And as time has gotten on, they've realized, hey, diet and exercise will help you and all those things. But you sit down and just ask your average, a doctor, and just ask them, how does niacin affect you? They say, I learned somewhere along the way about that. I think it gives hot flashes if you have too much of it. And they don't know. And a lot of people in there, and there's the preventative part of the medical field is awful. Okay, and so but something goes wrong, they're fantastic, and you should go to the doctor so they can fix a lot of things. Okay, and so understand that. I'm not against that. I just think there's a gap, and so they study these things. They didn't study why, because they don't usually study why, and those things. Every once in a while, they'll find out some certain country that nobody gets cancer there. Or they'll find this certain area, their joints are fantastic until they're 90. Or this certain country, they try to figure that out, and they'll come out and study, and they'll find out there's certain nutrients that country is very rich in their diet, and then you say, well, I never heard of that. Exactly, you never hear about that. You know why you never hear about that? Because there's zero money for anybody in it, and so because it never gets promoted, and because one of the pharmaceutical companies cannot patent fish oil and cannot sell it for $30 a pill. Okay, and so it doesn't get publicized. There's no big commercial for vitamin B12 or chromium for your mind. Okay, and so because of that, it doesn't get a lot out there. So Genesis 2, and I don't want to get sidetracked here because I get sidetracked in this stuff because I hate seeing people suffer so much. Genesis chapter 2 and verse 7. The Lord God formed man out of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils a breath of life, and man became a living soul. What's man made out of? Dust, dirt, clay. Man's made out of the earth. That's what we're made out of. Okay, and that's what's in the ground is what you need. It's what you're made out of. Okay, you need the nutrients in the ground. In the ground is magnesium and niacin and calcium and iron. And iron comes from animals. They get it from eating the food in the ground and different things like that and stuff like that. Your body needs nutrients. We're made a certain way. Your body's full. Every part of your brain, every part of your body, every part of your organs, your skin, your bones, they're all made of different materials. And they have to be replenished because they burn off, and we got to fill ourselves with these nutrients. That's what we're made out of. Now let me show you the big part of the problem here. Let me take you to Leviticus. We eat lots of food, Pastor, and that's true. But the whole point today is we're starving because our food has changed. Our food has changed. And I want to go to, let's see, Leviticus 25. I want to give you just a touch of bad news here. You say, okay, Pastor, the point is eat right. Yes, here's the problem. Eating right is not what it's used to be. Because the food you're always taught, if you eat it, it's really good for you, doesn't have what it used to have. Okay? And so, we'll prove this in a lot of different ways. But God had a plan in the land. Everything is rest. God was refreshed on the seventh day. Okay? That means God was tired. He was refreshed. It doesn't say God was not tired anymore. It says refreshed. He created the whole universe, and on the seventh day he rested. And there's something about resting that refreshes and builds something back up, makes you feel better. And God just kind of looking and saying, look what I did, and look at the creation, and I'm enjoying the work of my hands. I'm taking it easy for a day, and God is refreshed. God put that into man. God put that into everything. He makes everything, man, humans, need refreshing, and God says land needs refreshed. Okay? Land needs refreshed. Leviticus 25, and a lot of stuff about land in Leviticus and how they're supposed to treat the land, and things like that. But verse 2, it says, speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, when ye come into the land which I give you, then shall the land keep a Sabbath unto the Lord. 6 years thou shalt sow in the field, and 6 years shalt thou prune thy vineyard, and gather in the fruit thereof. But in the 7th year shall be a Sabbath of rest unto the land, a Sabbath for the Lord. And thou shalt neither sow in the field, nor prune thy vineyard. That which groweth of its own accord of thy harvest, thou shalt not reap, neither gather the grapes into thy vine undressed. For it is a year of rest unto the land, and the Sabbath of the land shall be meat for you, and for thee, and for thy servant, and for thy maid, and for thy hired servant, and for thy stranger, and for thy sojourners which are with thee. And so God's going to take care of that, all the cattle and for the beasts of the land. So God says a bunch of things. First of all, He says, when you plow your fields, leave some for the poor people, and that's God's welfare. Is you would not plow the corners of the field, and the people would come in and get the food from there who were poor, didn't have land. But it says in the 7th year, just leave your land. Don't plant anything. If anything grows, don't cut it down. Just let everything that falls in the ground lie there. The land's going to rest. What happens is your old things that grew there are going to fall down and die and rot. Nothing's getting pulled out of the land, out of the dirt, and the dirt replenishes itself because the land needs rest. Okay? And so here's the thing. Really simple. We all know this, but plants get roots. The roots go down in the ground, and the plant, in its mind, if it had one, would be pulling up the nutrient. Would be saying, "I'm just trying to live. I'm drinking something here." God designed it so with that those little roots of that cucumber or whatever is growing there is pulling nutrients out of the ground, and it makes it amazingly so they process it so that now you can eat that cucumber, and what the cucumber pulled out of the ground goes in your system and feeds your body. Okay, that's God's design. And so you get spinach, you get cucumbers, you get whatever, and somehow what a chicken eats or a cow eats, nutrients get into that cow, and then we gloriously eat it. And what happens is what's in that animal gets into our system and feeds us. But what happens if the land doesn't have rest? The thing that's growing is not pulling stuff out of the land. It's already pulled everything out of the land. The land's exhausted. It's like your 17th energy drink. It just doesn't do anything, okay? And so the land, our land, is never rested, and it's exhausted. And your food does not have nutrients in it. Now I'm going to show you that with studies, but that's because the Bible said to do it this way, okay? We're not following the Bible. If you go down to Kent Valley down here, great farmland, okay? Beautiful. You go down there, not only do they not rest the land, but watch go drive in the same field every month, once a month, and watch how many crops they grow on that field in a year. They don't just plant lettuce and that's it for the year. They'll put 5, 6 different crops in there. You very carefully plan what grows that time of the year. And though that's rich, wonderful farmland, it's exhausted. Will it still grow something? Yes. The water and the dirt will make the plant grow. And they bred different types, they can do things. But is it pulling the nutrients that you need out of it? No. So when you eat broccoli, you aren't eating broccoli from 100 years ago. for a whole bunch of reasons, and I have 8 reasons listed here. But I'm going to read you articles. Now, everything I just said, I'm going to prove you with articles and just read you and just show you these things. It's going to surprise you, I think, if once you hear these things, because they haven't rested the land, because we don't rest. That's part of our health problems, other things like that. But just a bunch of articles. This is out of the Globe. And today's fruits and vegetables lack yesterday's nutrition. Fruits and vegetables sold in Canada supermarkets today contain far fewer nutrients than they did 50 years ago. According to analysis conducted by the Globe and Mail and CTV News. Vital vitamins and minerals have dramatically declined in some of our most popular foods, including potatoes, tomatoes, bananas, and apples, the analysis reveals. Take the potato. By far the most consumed food in Canada. The average spud has lost, what percentage do you think? Vitamin A. Vitamin A helps your eyesight, okay, for one thing. Well, how much, if you take a guess, what percent of the vitamin A is no longer potatoes from this study is from, I think this is one from 1950 to 1999. This study, they studied it both those times. What percentage do you think you'd lose? 30, 40? That'd be awful. Can you imagine that? So then you have to eat a lot more potato. Okay, you ready? The average spud has lost 100% of its vitamin A, which is important for good eyesight. 57% of its vitamin C and iron. 57% of its iron and vitamin A. And 28% of its calcium, according to essential for building healthy bones and teeth. It also lost 50% of its riboflavin and 18% of its thiamine. Of the 7 key nutrients measured, only niacin levels have increased. The story is similar for 25 fruits and vegetables were analyzed. But Health Canada refused to comment on the findings, saying the debate was an academic one. Again, they just find out the information. Modern farming methods, long-haul transportation, and crop breeding practices are all believed to be contributing to the drop in vitamins and minerals. Phil Warman, an agronomist and professor of agricultural science in Nova Scotia Agricultural College, says there is no doubt the nutritional content of food is different today due to the emphasis on producing cheap food. The emphasis is on the appearance, storability, and transportation, and there's been much less emphasis on the nutritional value of fruit and vegetables. Now look, you go to the store and you're buying a green pepper. You know what you look for? The biggest, prettiest one. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I remember I was at the store one time, and I was trying to get a watermelon. My wife was down with something, and I was at the store buying, and I walked up to this watermelon, I knock on it and listen to it, and I have no idea what I'm listening for, but I know my wife does that. So I knocked on it. And so I see this other lady knocking on it. Okay, this is good. I walk over to her. I said, "Hey, I noticed you're knocking on it." I said, "Can you tell me how to know what sound is good?" And she says, "I have no idea." I just know what people always knock on. So, but we look for the biggest and the prettiest and the one that looks best, and we say that you know, there's no little sticker on your apple that says this is the type of apple that still has 100% of the vitamin C, and this one only has 40%. You know what you look for in an apple? A pretty one with no dents on it, right? You have no idea how old that apple is. It's going to surprise you when I tell you that. You have no idea how it was grown. You don't know if it's organic. You don't know if it's if it's been genetically modified. There's a lot you don't know. Okay, because people are not looking for nutritious. They think I'm buying an apple, it's nutritious. I'm buying spinach, this is healthy, and they don't understand. Is it? Because you might be eating good at what we call good, and you're doing better than most people, by the way, but you're not eating as good as you thought you were. Okay? And you ever wonder, if potatoes were so good for us, we'd be a lot healthier. But between the type of potatoes and how they're cooked, look, when you go next door here, those French fries aren't helping your body. Okay? Well, they're helping you grow a little rounder, but it's not really helping your body. And so you have that. And we saw that article. We see, one more sentence here, and I'll get the next one. According to Canadian data, almost 80% of foods tested showed drops in calcium and iron. 3/4 showed drops in vitamin A, and half lost vitamin C and riboflavin. 1/3 lost thiamine, and 12% lost niacin. And I've got a bunch of, it actually breaks it down. Broccoli has 62.8% less vitamin C. Vitamin C in broccoli. Can you imagine that? A banana has 100% less riboflavin, and so forth. And you could just go into these things and see it's pretty amazing. A tomato has 55.7% less vitamin C and so forth. And there's a lot of statistics. I'm not going to bore you. You get the point. Another article here. This is a little bit longer one, so bear with me. How much more have the nutrients of fruits and vegetables decreased? A landmark study on this topic was published in 2004 by Donald Davis entitled Changes in USDA Food Composition Data for 43 Garden Crops, 1950 to 1999. And the paper details and results and measures of 43 garden crops for 13 nutrients and how data has changed between 1950 and 1999. They actually measured, and fortunately, it was a good thing, they measured nutrient levels of different things in a couple times in the 1930s, and in 1950 they measured it really well. The people who are against this, and the GMO people, they've said that they couldn't measure it properly back then. That's been totally debunked. You can measure, you just weigh the copper, and you just weigh the iron, and they don't have as quick as methods as measured nowadays, but it's very accurate back then. And there's no doubt about that. And so they measure these things. So now they're doing these things. And the farther along we come, so in 99, it wasn't pretty. And they did some more studies in 2004. I haven't read any studies after 2010, but every time they measured it went up higher as far as the percent of nutrients we lost in these things for a lot of reasons. We'll show you why in a second here. Besides, it doesn't follow the Bible and the rest of the land. Oh, let's see. 13 nutrients between 1950 and 1999. The results show that for 6 nutrients, protein, calcium, phosphorus, iron, riboflavin, which is vitamin B2, and ascorbic acid, which is vitamin C, the median decline was between 6% for protein and 38% for riboflavin. Davis goes on saying, this is from University of Texas El Paso or something like that. That's in one of these articles. Davis goes on to say that there is likely been declines in other nutrients as well, including magnesium, which is true, zinc, vitamin B6, vitamin E. And because these nutrients were not measured in 1950, we have limited data on how much they have declined from our food supply. More research is needed to find out how much less of these key vitamins and minerals we are now getting. Other studies have found even more astonishing results. A study published in the British Food Journal on nutrient data from 1930 to 1980 found that 20 different vegetables, the average potassium content had declined 14%, calcium 19%, iron 22%. In general, the comparison of mineral content over the period shows sufficient reduction of magnesium, iron, copper, potassium, and magnesium, copper, and sodium in vegetables. Another study conducted by the Natural Health Kushi Institute uncovered the same disturbing trend when the analysis analyzed nutrient levels of food based on USDA data from 1975 to 1997. So this is just 75 to 97. It was found out that vitamin A levels had decreased 21%, calcium levels 27%. Notice how much calcium decreased in everything? Everybody says, why does everybody have all these bones problems? Well, it's pretty simple. And our milk has changed, everything else has changed. Where was I? Let's see. Let's see. Vitamin C levels by 30% and iron levels by 37%. A different study reported by the Toronto Globe and Mayo, we read that one, showed 100% of vitamin A and 50% of vitamin C. And even concluded that current customers would have to eat 8 oranges to get the same amount of vitamin A as their grandparents got from 1 orange. That was that study. And so that was between, now listen, 1951 and 1999. You have to eat 8 oranges to get what you got out of 1 orange before. So you eat an orange, you say, well, I'm eating healthy. But you're not eating healthy like your grandparents were. You understand that? Because the land's exhausted. And that's not the only reason, but there's other reasons. A couple other things. In the 1940s, here's some reasons. I'm going to get into some reasons. It goes back to the land's not exhausted, but there's some other things involved in this that makes it compounds the problem. In the 1940s, approximately half of the U.S. population lived in a farm. What does that mean? You walked out and grabbed it off the tree, and it was healthier then, And there's some other things about that because there's other ways besides what's in the ground that lose the nutrients. This is now it's between 1 and 2%, went from 50% to 1 and 2%. Reasons. Now here's an article with some reasons that it gives in here, and I'm going to go quick. I feel sorry for the translator already, but we'll give it some of these things. Number one, evidence seems to suggest that if you select plants based on yield and shorter growing times, crops grow faster and larger at the expense of taking up nutrients at the same rate. This means for a vegetable or a fruit of a given size, it has less time to grow roots. Shorter roots mean less nutrients from the earth and can be incorporated into the plant or fruit. So nowadays they can grow their whatever it used to take 6 months for this fruit, for this vegetable to grow. Now they've gotten plants, and they bred them and messed around. Now the same thing grows in 2 months, and they can put in 3 different things. But why that is because their roots don't go down as deep. There's not a lot of root growing time. So it just goes very shallow, grows up the plant fills up with moisture mostly, and because of that, the roots aren't as deep. They're not able to get down into the stuff as much, and they're not as long. They don't pull up as much nutrients. The United States and much of the world, topsoil has been lost to erosion. Overuse of inorganic nitrogen fertilizers and pesticides have killed beneficial bacteria and other microorganisms in the soil. This has resulted in topsoil depleted of vital nutrients and vibrant ecosystems and a decrease in arable land. Number 3, similar pollution has contributed to decreased topsoil nutrients and increased levels of chemicals in topsoil and many decreased nutrition. Similarly, due to years of tillage and inefficient or non-existent crop rotation and the use of land, topsoil is often denser and less nutritious dense today than it used to be, meaning water and roots don't move through it as easily, decreasing their ability to spread it out and absorb the proper nutrients in the earth. I can't elaborate on these. Understand, because they've used it so much, it's taking the nutrients out and it's just dead dirt. It's so packed and solid. It doesn't have, the roots can't get around as much because the ground is just so empty of nutrients, the fillers in there, and is another reason. The shift from small farms and shorter distances to market and industrial production and longer transportation distances also meant the selection of produce that ships easier with less damage. Number 5, I've got 8. I'm going to do this number 5, and I'm going to elaborate for a second because we're out of time. Long transportation distances have also necessitated picking fruits and vegetables earlier. And they are before they are fully ripe, and therefore before they have the chance to absorb and produce as many nutrients as they otherwise would. What that means is they do not pick the apple when it's ripe. People used to walk out in their field and pick their apples when they're ripe. They pick them before they're ripe, and then they put them in a situation where a covering will make them ripen when they're off the tree. Okay, put a certain color of paper over it or something like that. And so the apple that you picked 3 weeks early, because you're going to be shipping it somewhere for weeks or storing it for a long period of time, it now ripens off the tree. What does that mean? It's not getting nutrients put into it for the last bit of time. Okay, and then the problem is they go and they take it and they transport it and then they store it. So you can go buy apples and grapes. I went and bought grapes last week. Where do they grow grapes in February? Okay, and I know there's a few places you can do that, but a lot of things you can store for a very long period of time, and again, I'm out of time. They did a study in Australia. A news agency decided they want to see how old the apples were because they don't look old, but they go through a process. They wax them. They store them a certain way, they let them ripen, and they put them in cold storage. They put a bunch of chemicals on them so they will not age. And this is not a few apples in some weird country. This is very typical. And in Australia, they trace the apples. They found that the apples that you were buying in the store, just in every store, were 9 to 10 months old. The problem is nutrition decreases over time in the apple. And so you've got, the ground is exhausted. They're picking them before they're ripe. You've got these super fast-growing hybrid things that do not have deep roots and have time also on there. Then you've got these things stored for a super long time. During that time, in some cases, the nutrients are fine, but in many cases, the nutrients decrease, and then you eat it. So you understand, you're starving. And you get up in the morning, and certain nutrients that make you not be so exhausted in the morning, you don't have. And you're not sleeping good. And sleep is affected by magnesium massively. If you're magnesium deficient, you won't sleep deep, and you have a problem falling asleep, and you have a problem waking up. And so all of a sudden, all these health problems, including our discs degenerating and our joints having problems and our sleep being bad and our emotions being messed up, and you cannot handle stress. Now, 1,000 other things that go on are because Americans are starving. Okay? Because they haven't followed God's way. And then you go to some poor country in the third world, and here's some 70-year-old guy who looks like he's 50 running circles around a fat American. Okay? Why? Because they live on some little island with coconuts and bananas that are full nutrition, coconuts and bananas. And when you eat the chicken's been running around the field. It's not all full of fat and stuff full of all kinds of stuff. And it's been eating stuff from the ground and eating critters that have been eating the right things. And it's nutritious. So, what do? Well, we're not going to no time. Just been healthy for another week. And but that's all I can tell you. But the problem is we don't do things God's way. And there, now you can feel terrible about how unhealthy you are. You have no solution, but you know why now. And so there we go.